So what is a chord? It's a group of notes played together at the same time. Technically, a chord has to have 3 notes in it to be considered a real chord. But a chord can also have a ton of notes in it. In fact, a chord can even have all 12 notes in it. Does that sound good? No, but my point is that chords can have way more than just 3 notes in them. A chord has 2 parts to it. The first half is called the root. It's the note that the chord is built from. The second half is called the chord quality. This tells us all the information about what type of chord it is. Just to quickly make sure we know the difference between the 2 parts, I'm going to write out some random chord names. Okay, let's draw a line between the root and the chord quality for each of these chords, just to make sure we know which is which. So to determine what the root is, we're just going to look at the very first note in the chord, and if there's any sharp or flat attached to it, that's also part of the note. So, for instance, in this first chord, this F sharp minor 7 flat 5, the F sharp is the root. I'm going to draw a line like that, and then the minor 7 flat 5 is the chord quality. How about this D minor? D is the root, and minor is the chord quality. Okay, what about D flat minor? These are 2 different symbols for minor, a lowercase m or a minus sign like that. What is the root note here? It's the D flat. So B flat half diminished, this is a half diminished sign. The B flat is the root, and the half diminished is the chord quality. What about for E7 sharp 5? Just the E is the root note. The 7 sharp 5 is the chord quality. What about for C13? The root is C. Okay, what about for E flat major 9? The root is E flat. By the way, a triangle means major. What about for G major 7 sharp 11? G is our root note. What about for A6 add 4? What's the root? The root is just A. For F, the root is just F. And whenever you see a letter just written by itself as a chord, it's assumed that it's a major chord. So the chord is F major. So the chord quality is major, the root is F. For A flat major 7, what is the root? It's A flat. Right? What about for B flat sus 4? B flat is the root, and sus 4 is the chord quality. So as you can see, you just look for the first note, and if there's a little sharp or flat right next to it, and that's the root note. And then everything else, even if there's a sharp or a flat later on, is part of the chord quality. Now in this video, we're going to just focus on a very specific type of chord called a triad, which, as you might have guessed from the word triad, only has 3 notes in it. Now later on, I will be making much more advanced videos about chord theory and covering all types of topics related to chords. And as I create them, I will add them as links into the description of this video. So come back and check later to see if there's any new content down there. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. I post 1 video a week, and I'd love to have you on board. There are 4 main types of triads: major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Chords have what I like to think of as simple little formulas, which I've written out right here. So let's pretend that I want to figure out what the notes are in a C major chord, a C minor chord, a C diminished chord, and a C augmented chord. And let's use these simple little formulas to figure it out. Okay, so to know what notes are in these chords, we need to first look at the root note and think of the major scale of that note. So what's the root note of a C major chord, a C minor chord, a C diminished chord, and a C augmented chord? It's a C, of course. So let's write out a C major scale. Now let's think of this scale as numbers, so I'm going to give each one of these notes a number. So now we go back to the formulas, and we're just going to plug the numbers into the formulas. For instance, a C major chord is made up of 1, 3, and 5. So if we go to our C major scale, what is the first, third, and fifth note of the scale? C, E, and G. Therefore, our C major chord has a C, an E, and a G in it. So I'm going to write C, E, and G. That's our C major chord. Okay, what about a C minor chord? We have a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. So we have, what's the 1 going to be? 1 is going to be our C, right? Then what about the flat 3? Well, the 3 is an E, so it's going to be an E flat, because we're just going to take that third note and flatten it. So C, E flat, and G. Pretty easy. Okay, what about a C diminished chord? We have a 1, a flat 3, and a flat 5. So what's our 1? Our 1 is C, right? So C, we know that one. Then a flat 3 is going to be an E flat. And then what about a flat 5? Well, the 5 is a G, so we're going to flatten that, so it'll be G flat. And what about our C augmented chord? 1, 3, and sharp 5. So we have a 1 for the C, right? For the 3, we just have a normal 3, so it's an E. And then we have a sharp 5, so we're going to take the 5th degree and sharpen it so that it's going to become a G sharp. G sharp. Make sense? If you think about these words diminished and augmented, diminished means to make something smaller, right? So in our diminished chord, we have a 1 and a flat 5 and a flat 3, so we flattened 2 of the notes in that chord. So we're making the notes smaller and closer together. And with the augmented chord, to augment is to make something bigger, right? So with our sharp 5, we're taking these notes and making them further apart from each other. We're making it bigger, so augment. Okay, it's pretty simple to figure this out in the key of C, but let's try some keys that are a little bit trickier and have some sharps and flats in them. Okay, so we're going to try with a different root note now. So let's say we want to figure out an E major, E minor, E diminished, and E augmented chord. So we're going to look at the root note of those chords, which is E, and we're going to first think about our E major scale. So I'm going to write that out. And we're going to number it. So first, what are the notes in an E major chord? So I know the major chord is a 1, 3, and a 5, right? So what are our 1, 3, and 5 in the key of E major? Well, the 1 is E, right? The 3 is a G sharp, and the 5 is a B. So those 3 notes, when you play E, G sharp, and B together, you're playing an E major chord. E, G sharp, and B. Now what about an E minor chord? So for a minor chord, we have a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. So what's the 1? The 1 is the E. I can write that in. Now what about a flat 3? So what's the 3rd degree? The 3rd degree is G sharp. So if I flatten a G sharp, what does it become? Well, to flatten any note, we just move it down 1/2 step. So if I have a G sharp note and I move it down 1/2 step, it just becomes a G. So a flat 3 is going to be not a G sharp, but just a regular G. And what about the 5th degree? The 5th degree is just B. Now just as a side note, that flat 3 of the minor chord is what makes it a minor chord. So actually that 3rd degree is very important because it tells us if the chord is major or minor. You might have heard of a suspended chord before. Well, in a sus2 and a sus4 chord, we actually take the 3 out of the chord and we replace it with either the 2nd degree or the 4th degree. If it's a sus2 chord, we replace the 3rd with the 2nd degree, and if it's a sus4 chord, we replace it with the 4th degree. And when we do that, when we remove the 3 and replace it with either the 4 or the 2, we no longer can tell if the chord is major or minor. Anyway, that was a side note. I'll get into suspended chords more later in another video. Back to these triads. So, what about an E diminished chord? We have a 1, right? So the 1 is E. What about the flat 3? It's the same as in the minor chord. The flat 3 is going to be just a regular G, right? And then we have a flat 5. So we're going to take that 5th degree, that B, and we're going to turn it into a B flat. So B flat. So these are the notes in our E diminished chord. Now what about an E augmented chord? So we have a 1, so E is the 1, right? We have a normal 3, not a flat 3, but a normal 3, so that's just going to be G sharp. And what about our sharp 5? We're going to take this B and we're going to sharpen it, so we're going to get a B sharp. Now some of you might be saying, whoa, I thought there was no such thing as a B sharp. That's what my teacher told me, on the piano there's no note between B and C, so there isn't a B sharp. And yes, it's true, there is no unique separate pitch that is wholly dedicated to being a B sharp note. However, we can sharpen and flatten any note, so we can refer to a note as a B sharp, but really when we say B sharp, we're playing a C note, since there's no note between B and C, and if we sharpen that B, it just goes to C. You can even sharpen an already sharp note, and then we have a double sharp note. You can also flatten an already flat note and have a double flat note. So don't get too bogged down in these rules right now, but basically, yes, you can have a B sharp. It's not wrong. Okay, let's do another example. Let's say I want to find an F sharp major chord, F sharp minor chord, F sharp diminished chord, and an F sharp augmented chord. So first, what's our F sharp major scale? So this is our F sharp major scale. Just like when we were talking about that B sharp, some of you might also be looking at this E sharp and saying, wait, I thought there was no E sharp. I thought there's no note between E and F. It's true there is no different note between E and F, but E sharp is technically an F note. It's called an enharmonic equivalent actually when you have just one note but multiple names for the same note. So E sharp and F are enharmonic equivalents. So you can refer to as an F as an F, or you can refer to an F as an E sharp. And since we're in the key of F sharp, we technically are referring to it as an E sharp. Again, don't worry about these details too much right now, but that's what's happening. So let me number it real quick. Okay, what are the notes in my F sharp major triad? I have a 1, a 3, and a 5, so that's F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. What about in an F sharp minor chord? So I have a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. So what's the 1? The 1 is F sharp. Now what is the flat 3? So I'm going to find my third, which is A sharp, and I'm going to flatten it. So what does that become if I flatten an A sharp? It just becomes a regular A. So it's F sharp, A, and then what about the fifth degree? The fifth degree is C sharp, so C sharp. So F sharp, A, and C sharp is an F sharp minor triad. Okay, what about an F sharp diminished chord? We have our 1, right? So that's just an F sharp. Now we have a flat 3, so what's our flat 3? So it's an A, right? Just a normal old A, just like the minor chord. And a flat 5, what's our flat 5? Well, the fifth degree is C sharp, and if we flatten a C sharp, what does it become? It becomes a C. Cool. So that's your F sharp diminished chord, is an F sharp, an A, and a C. Now what about an F sharp augmented chord? We have the 1, which is F sharp, right? We have the 3, which is A sharp. Okay, now this one's going to be interesting. So we need a sharp 5, and our fifth degree is a C sharp. So how can we sharp a C sharp? Well, we're actually going to write C double sharp. Now when you see a double sharp note written on staff paper, you're going to see a little X symbol written right in front of the note. Now what's the enharmonic equivalent for C double sharp? Like what other note is that? Well, if you think about it, so if we're in C sharp and we move up a half step, just a D note actually. So a C double sharp is the same as the note D. However, we're referring to it as a C double sharp to stay true to the key we're in. Let's do another one. Okay, let's do a flat key now. How about A flat? So let's say I want to find A flat major, A flat minor, A flat diminished, and A flat augmented chords. So first I'm going to write out my A flat major scale. So here's our A flat major scale: A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G. Hey, quick side note, have you ever noticed that in an A flat major scale, the 3 notes that aren't flattened are C, F, and G? But then in an A major scale, not an A flat major scale, but an A major scale, the C, the F, and the G are the only notes that are sharpened. Pretty cool. There's so many fun little patterns like that sprinkled in throughout all the other major scales too. Okay, so what is our A flat major chord? What's the 1? The 1 is going to be an A flat, right? Oh no, my marker is dying. I need to buy more. This is my only one. Ah. What's the third degree? C, right? And what's the fifth degree? The fifth degree is E flat. Nice and simple. Now what about our A flat minor triad? So we have a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. So what's our 1? Our 1 is A flat. Okay, our flat third is a C flat. And what's our 5? Our 5 is just E flat. Now here, C flat, that's another one of these notes where you might say, hey, I didn't think there was a C flat because there's no note between B and C. Well, a C flat is really just a B note. It's an enharmonic equivalent of B. So when you say C flat, it's really a B note, but we're calling it a C flat. Now what about our A flat diminished chord? So the 1 is going to be A flat. What's our flat 3? Is going to be a C flat again. Now our flat 5, this will be an interesting one again. So what's our 5? Our 5 is E flat. So if we flatten E flat, what happens to it? It becomes an E double flat. I picked crazy keys so that we could see these kind of things. Now, what's the enharmonic equivalent of E double flat? So what is the pitch we're hearing when we play an E double flat? Well, let's think about it. So E flat, and then we move down another half step, and it becomes a D. So E double flat is the same note as a D, but we're calling it E double flat. And last but not least, let's figure out our A flat augmented chord. So we have our 1 is A flat, right? What's the 3? The 3 is C, right? Just a normal C, because it's not a flat 3. And then a sharp 5. So E flat. If we sharpen E flat, what does it become? So it was an E flat, and we move it up a half step. It just turns into a regular E. Make sense? Hopefully. And quick side note, when you see this double flat symbol on staff paper written out with music notation, it looks like two little flat symbols written in front of the note. Cool, so I think you get the idea. Most of the keys don't have these double flats and double sharps. I specifically chose them to show as an example for you so that you could see kind of the most confusing stuff. But I don't need to go through every key with you because then this video would be an hour long. But I do want to quickly talk about the intervals in these types of 4 triads, okay? So an interval is just the distance between two notes. And we measure this distance in either half steps or whole steps. Now, a half step is the very smallest interval we have. So a half step would be from C to C sharp, that's a half step. Or from C sharp to D, that's a half step. So if I were to just move up and play every single note on the keyboard, I would be moving up in half steps. Now, if I were playing it on a ukulele or guitar, if I wanted to move up in half steps, I could just move up 1 fret. So when you move up 1 fret, you're moving a half step. Now, a whole step, as you might have guessed, is just 2 half steps. So between C and D is a whole step because I have 2 half steps, right? From here to here is a half step, and from here to here is a half step. So from C to D, right here is a whole step. What about from D to E? Is that a whole step or a half step? That's a whole step. What about from E to F? Is that a whole step or a half step? That is only a half step. See how there's no note in between them? We're just moving up 1 half step. Now what about from E to G? Is that a whole step or a half step? That's a whole step. What about from G to G sharp? That's a half step. You get the idea. Now in a major triad, like let's say C major, right? So C, E, and G. We have the 1, 3, and 5 here, C, E, and G. Now the distance between the 1 and the 3 is what we call a major third, okay? So we have a major third, and then the distance between the 3 and the 5, the E and the G, is a minor third. So we have a major third and then a minor third. Now in a minor triad, so C, E flat, and G is our minor triad, right? Distance between the 1 and the flat 3, so the C and the E flat, is a minor third. So we have a minor third on the bottom. And then the distance between the flat 3 and the 5, between that flat 3 and that 5, that E flat and that G, is a major third. And the overall distance between them, that's what we call a perfect fifth. And the distance between these is also a perfect fifth. So what I mean by that is in my C major chord, so the C and the G, so the 1 and the 5, if we would measure that distance, it's called a perfect fifth. So this distance is a major third, this is a minor third. The whole thing is a perfect fifth from 1 to 5. Now a major third interval is 4 half steps, and a minor third interval is 3 half steps. And a perfect fifth interval is 7 half steps. You could also think of that 7 half steps as 3 whole steps and 1 half step. So here's my major third interval, right? I'm moving up 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 half steps. And to get from my E to my G, I said that's a minor third, right? So 1, 2, 3. It's only 3 half steps up. And then my perfect fifth from C to G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 half steps. Make sense? Now what I'm showing you, these intervals are the same no matter what key you're in or what root note you're playing. A major chord is always going to be a major third interval and then a minor third interval. So if I wanted to play an A flat major triad, right? Now let's say I don't know what my A flat major scale is and I'm trying to figure out what the third is in an A flat major chord. Well, I can think of the interval and I know that it's 4 half steps up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So C is going to be the third degree. And then I need to move up 3 half steps from there. to get to my fifth. So 1, 2, 3. So E flat is going to be the fifth. So I know my A flat major triad is going to be A flat, C, and E flat, like that. So this is another way to find the notes in a chord. If you don't actually know what your scales are, you could just start with the root note and figure out based on the intervals, okay, I know I need to move up 4 half steps and then 3 half steps, or 3 half steps and then 4 half steps to create my chord. Now a diminished triad do you think it's a minor third from this 1 to this flat 3, or a major third? Remember, I said that a flat 3 is a minor chord, right? So if there's one thing you can remember from today's lesson, it's that flat 3 is minor. So this is going to be a minor third from the 1 to the flat 3. So C to E flat, that's a minor third. Just the same way as in our minor triad, right? So we start with a minor third. And then what about from this flat 3 to this flat 5? What is that? Is that a minor third interval or a major third interval? Let's count it and figure it out. So I know that my C diminished chord is a C, E flat, and a G flat, okay? So I need to figure out if this distance between the E flat and the G flat is a major third or a minor third. So starting on E flat, I'm going to count how many half steps it is. So 1, 2, 3. It's only 3 half steps up. 3 half steps is a minor third, remember? Because 4 half steps is a major third. So I know this is going to be a minor third. So a diminished chord is like 2 minor thirds stacked on top of each other. Now the overall distance of this is not actually a perfect fifth, because a perfect fifth would be C to G, right? And we're going C to G flat. So this is called a diminished fifth, actually. It's the tritone. Not too hard to remember that it's a diminished fifth for a diminished chord, right? Now a diminished fifth interval has 3 whole steps or 6 half steps. I'll show you. So remember, it's C to G flat is a diminished fifth, right? So let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 half steps, which is also the same as 3 whole steps. The last one we're looking at is our augmented triad. So with our augmented triad, from this 1 to the 3, is that, like from C to E, is that a major third or a minor third? Let's count it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 half steps. So is 4 half steps a major third or a minor third interval? It's a major third interval. So I have a major third, and then on top of that, from the E to the G sharp, right? Because it's a sharp 5. What is that distance? Let's figure it out. Is that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 half steps. What is that? 4 half steps is another major third. So we have 2 major thirds stacked on top of each other. So you can really think of these triads as just 2 intervals of thirds stacked on top of each other, right? Now, the overall distance between the 1 and the sharp 5 in an augmented triad, that is called an augmented fifth. And how many half steps or whole steps is in an augmented fifth? Well, let's count it. So we're starting on C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 half steps, which is also 4 whole steps. So 4 whole steps in our augmented fifth interval. Okay, and I think that just about does it for this lesson. I will be, as I said, posting more videos about chord theory that get more advanced. Hopefully you understood everything in this video. If you didn't, just let me know in the comments. Or if you just want to say hey, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and please don't forget to subscribe if you also enjoyed it. I post a video every week, so stay tuned for more content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.